please help us. Awesome, thank you. So yeah, this is the first publication group meeting. Woo. All right. My name is Dennis Brown. I am a Psyche 2. I started this group last year in the third semester, just out of inspiration of what I went through when doing the process of publishing my article and seeing how it really set me up for greatness later on. Like I'm experiencing now how that process really like made me feel like more confident in my writing as well as confident in the level of writing that we will probably do outside of getting a master's and getting a doctorate. Another thing I would like to add, well, first of all, before I keep going on, I want my other people to introduce themselves. Go first.
All right, I am Dr. Farrell, core faculty in the PsyD program. My research area is consensual non-monogamy, a little bit of acceptance and commitment therapy. My clinical work is primarily with trans youth.
All right, and hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Swanberg. I am one of the librarians here focused on user services, but I also serve as adjunct faculty a third of the year and teach the dissertation prep class for the PsyD1s. And my interest areas for research are very practice-based. So librarianship in general is very practice-based. So we typically do a lot more with the users that we work with. So how are you doing searches? How are you learning about information literacy? How are you doing AI? Like those types of things. So I'm always actively looking for things like that. But right now I'm working on a book with a librarian at Adler looking at literature reviews and essentially how to do your literature review journey, whether that be for dissertation or research or others.
So you're just casually
right.
On the off days, I'm just
writing a book.
Yeah, in my free time.
Yeah. So the one thing about Stephanie is that she will not tell you all the things that she's doing. One other thing is that she is librarian of the year. So come on.
I'm trying to change people's image of librarians, so one little thing at a time.
Yeah, so
yeah, stereotypical. We sit and read books all day and tell people shush. I don't do any of those things.
Just a little another negative about myself is that most of my research deals with trauma in Black American adults. This last thing I published was mostly dealing with Black families in intergenerational trauma and how to use Trauma Focus Act as a way of helping that community. And a couple presentations at APA, MPA, I've done a lot. So I've been around the circuit. So if anyone has any questions about not even just doing something that has to do with publication, but like just doing a research project and wanting to do something out and do a poster or do a oral presentation, something that inspires you, you can also ask those questions here as well.
Because one of the things about Dennis, if we're calling people out, is that he not only likes to use his experience to help the community, but also to lift other people up. So that's why he started this group.
Yes. I was so mad at the fact that it was only one person that was like doing like getting recognition, and then Greg, the first one was Greg too. Like I'm so happy to see this person was like name after name, doing the publication. I was like, there's only one person in this whole community that's doing this, and we need more.
I think he doesn't sleep. I think he's sleeping like a vampire.
He's president-elect of a division now.
I know, because he doesn't sleep.
He doesn't sleep. If you ever type the name Jared Booth, learn him.
Yes. And he's a super nice guy.
Super sweet. I mean, he just doesn't sleep.
Doesn't sleep. I'm convinced.
But I want to lift you guys up, and I want you guys to set you guys up for success. So this is why we're here. And I want to just go around the room and just get to know a little bit about you. I know Nosa, because he's been here before, but any new people. So let's just Whoever wants to go first.
Isn't that the next slide?
Everybody.
Oh, is that the next slide? Yes. Oh my goodness, that's the next slide. Look at that. It's like I did this before. Yeah, so before we get started, I'd like for us to go up. So just tell me like your name, where you're at in the program, why did you pick to be in this group? And also like a little bit of your research interests, kind of like what me, Dr. Farrell, and Stephanie talked about.
Okay. Hi, I'm Reagan. I am a second year part-time master's student, so I'm in practicum this year. I am really interested in stigma right now and like stigma and different mental health disorders. Me and a couple of my friends are doing like BPD, like working with borderline and trying to figure out like where the stigma of that came from and work on a literature review for that. And I'm interested in this group because I'm doing so much research this year in particular. I was just interested to see what the publication process looks like. So I figured I would pop in and see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice to have you.
Oh, I'm Rita. I'm Fraggle Rock Energy today. I'm trying to pull it together. Where are you right now? I'm in the full-time MA program, so I am very, very new to all of this and trying to get my bearings. I have found that I am interested in way more things than I probably have hours in the day for, which is what brings me to the group. I do want to write something that I will be able to publish, and research interest is a bit sporadic right now because there's so many things that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like literally as you all were talking, I'm like, oh, ooh. So I'm trying to kind of hone in and figure it out so that as I get research experience, that will be a step in the journey, because I am 99.9% sure that I'm going to apply for doc school. So I feel like this would be a good experience and skill to build moving forward. So
Yeah. And being a part of this group doesn't mean you have to have everything already written, everything already figured out. No.
I was hoping
We're
not.
here for support.
Yeah.
We're here for support. We're all at different parts of the process in different things. Yeah.
And we're here for you to help you.
Now, do you want to wait for yours? Because I know
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
So Bethany.
Okay, hi. My name's Bethany. I'm a PsyD 1. What brings me to the group? Mainly professional development, I guess. I'm just wanting to, take part and learn in as much as I can possibly take part and learn in during my time at MSP, and really making the most out of my time here for my benefit and growth as a person and a professional. Research interests, I don't know what that is currently. In the past, I did research on elements of psychological abuse, particularly really subtle and covert methods, and qualitative research about women who maybe were in long-term relationships where that was going on and they didn't realize it for a really long time. So that was like part of my research interests in my undergrad. But right now I'm just kind of open and putting out the feelers and seeing what everybody else is doing and seeing where inspiration lands.
I love to have you. So glad. Thank you. Okay.
Danielle too.
I can't see them. Okay.
No.
There we go. Okay. Hey, Danielle.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. I'm Danielle Love. I, like Rita, am a full-time MA student. Definitely looking to immerse myself in everything that MSP has to offer. So I like to write. In my mind, I'm reasonably okay with it, but definitely looking to enhance those skills and really apply my love for writing to like this whole psychology field and the research and all that. I also, like Rita, have a lot of areas that have just kind of popped up on my radar that I now have new interest in. But I guess holistically speaking, I'm very interested in Black women and trauma and the kind of how that ties into the family dynamic. And I'm not really sure where I want to go with that, but that's at the forefront of my interest right now.
Oh, dang it, we're gonna be friends. We're gonna be friends. Yes, I got you on that. But yes, I'm so glad to have you. This is a lot of great stuff. Everyone is coming in with different experience, and I think with this group, we want to foster growth within your research interests. So, you know,
You didn't notice that.
I know I'm gonna so I just, you know, I really want this group to really feel open to not having everything ready at the ready. Okay, like if you have questions, we are here. Okay, because I've been in the process where you're at, and there's times where I had a question about a whole different research topic where I was trying to. I've been scatterbrained before, so I know. But before we get starting and moving and grooving, I know Nos is here as a special guest because he's been here before. He's done a semester of this. And I kind of wanted to give an experience to someone that's been a part of the group and talking about his research project because I'm very hopeful he's going to publish very soon.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so my name is Nosa. I am a PsyD2. What brought me to the group is to get help on my current research, which is racial battle fatigue. That's also one of my interests, racial trauma. I'm also interested in doing kind of the intersectionality of Black LGBTQ people. So that's hopefully something that I can get some research done because that's a population that I'm really interested in. And I'm guessing there's not a whole lot there. I don't know yet, but that's something I'm interested in. And yeah. What else do you want me to talk about?
Tell me a little bit more about your experience being in the publication group in regards to how you have come from the beginning of it and towards the end of that semester.
So with the publication group, I kind of came into it with my research portion already completed. I completed the data analysis. And so I'm in the process of writing all of that up. But I kind of wasn't sure, like I know I need to write it up, but I was like, what's next? And so naturally the publication group came to mind. And I came to the publication group and said, this is what I got, can you help me? And so I was actually able to sit down with Stephanie and really look at what my research was and see, you know, where do I want to apply to some of my research for publication, because unbeknownst to me, that it can be a complicated process in terms of the level of exposure you can get depending on the journal that you are trying to get published in. And so I wanted to kind of have at least more of a wide-ranging effect. So I'm hoping to publish my research on racial battle fatigue in the journal Black Psychology. So that's something I'm super excited about.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
And then just being in this group, I think, and leaning on Dennis and getting his expertise so that I can, you know, really craft a good manuscript that can get published and hopefully also turn that into a poster at APA or a talk at APA as well. So I'm in the process with the rest of you guys as well.
Cool. I'm so glad you was able to stop back. You're a busy person and talk about, because look, man, I get a long second here, so but I really appreciate you for coming in and at least giving some of that experience.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sneak up. Yeah.
Thank you, Nosa. Thank you. All right, so this is what we're gonna be going over. We're gonna talk about how to justify your research, how to be thorough with the research. We're also gonna be talking about selecting a journal. We're not gonna get too into that because the next meeting we're gonna talk about is gonna be more in depth, but we're just gonna talk a little bit like little things that people should watch out for when they're trying to create their own research, like don't overstate your findings, listening to other people's advice, and then taking peer reviewers' comments really well, even though that's really hard. I will tell you my experience. So let's get started.
I'll just jump in here and say I know almost everyone in here is very early stages, kind of exploring research, but I want to emphasize that these tips that we'll kind of go over are really things to start thinking about now when you're starting to design your research project, or you're coming up with ideas for ways that you can get kind of your work out there without looking at the traditional publishing process. So next week, or next time, 2 weeks from now, we're gonna really focus on, yes, we do focus on traditional research here, but also what are the many ways that you can publish without doing a research project, in the sense of, I have a hypothesis and I want to collect data and I want to pursue it. That's one way. There are many ways.
And then tomorrow, who's doing the presentation on turning your paper into a book?
Yes. So related to this process, tomorrow, Dr. Cusick, myself, and Nosa are co-teaching a workshop on taking a paper that you've written for a class and turning that into a proposal to submit to a conference. So no matter what kind of ideas you have, I think there's always a possibility that what you're working on can be presented at a conference. So that's coming together with this group as well. So that's sponsored by Sci-Chi, and we're going to be doing that as well as another workshop later in the year. But I think it's a good time to bring that up, tag teaming what we're talking about today.
Yes. Please remind me that we need to submit ethics for working with non-monogamous clients.
Yes. Okay. So this is the thing that we do. We're also in a research team together, me and Dr. Farrell. So sometimes when we're like in the moment, we'll like, oh, remind me that thing you got to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's our brain. So don't worry, you can do that sometimes. Okay. So justify your research. Why are you doing this? Who's your audience you're trying to talk to, right? I know you were talking about stigma as your research, right? Like, so what population are you thinking about sharing that information with? Did you come up with anything out of that research?
Clinicians.
Clinicians.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Perfect. So, when you're writing something, creating a piece, and I'm going from a literature review standpoint, you want to know exactly who you're talking to. Who are you trying to benefit with this piece of work? With my experience, I wrote about trauma, intergenerational trauma. So it wasn't just for clinicians, even though that was a big part of the audience I wanted to talk to, but it was also people that don't know what intergenerational trauma is and were experiencing those behaviors, right? Like, especially things in the parenting behaviors that happen and how that affects children. So like, it was more of just not just clinicians, but everyone. Sometimes we have to know what impact we're going to make when we're doing this type of research. I know it's really hard to think of yourself as, I'm going to create something so unique, something so different, so crazy that people are going to be like, what? Who wrote that? But that's the kind of how we have to like look at things when we're starting a project. You have to be inspired to think that we're going to do something.
Change the world.
Change the world, exactly. And that's the type of energy that you should put into when you're writing about something. And you should also ask yourself, like, what's different about your research, right? This is where you look at other pieces of research and compare it to what you're doing. So, like, if you're doing any research on stigma or research on families, you want to know what's out there, who wrote about this, and it's the question that you're asking, has that already been answered? And if it has been answered, is there another question within it? I was just make sure that hit down, make sure that question or that line makes sense. Does that make sense for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I always like to think of it as, yes, you have a starting kind of topic area, but the literature is going to drive like which direction you actually go. Because maybe what you originally thought has been done, but has it been done with another population? Has it been done in another way? Have they looked at it more from I'm going to do it qualitatively and look at interviews. Maybe we need the quantitative side or vice versa. And so I always say, no matter what topic you have, there's always a niche somewhere in there where you're going to be able to fit and kind of fill that gap and fill that need. And again, that happens very early in your research process where you're trying to figure out what does that look like.
Yes. Me and Dr. Farrell have experienced this when we looked at scales and we realized there might be a new scale for something that we're studying, even though we won't do it right now. but
you're gonna have have to get somebody like, I don't know, Dr. Keenan on our team to be doing some scale development. That's crazy. There is no good measurement for jealousy.
Oh.
There's one scale that was once developed in the 1980s that is proprietary, that the guy doesn't let anybody use unless he agrees with your research. And it is all based in very mononormative, like it would not work for any of my populations. So
Yeah, and a lot of the research, sometimes most of it is from like outdated, like times of area where like it wasn't accounted for back then, right? Like there's times where I look at research and I was like, oh, that's right, that makes sense. But it was in the 90s that no one was thinking about this aspect back then, or the 70s.
I just felt old.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The way you said like back then in the 90s, and I was like, yeah, wait.
well, for those of us who lived back then, we know how bad it was. So
Oh my
firsthand
God.
account.
I'm sorry. Squirrel.
Sorry.
Okay.
You referenced Fraggle Rock, we already knew.
If it makes it better, I didn't think you were from the 90s.
Thank
There
you.
you go. Find other things that people didn't notice when they did past research, right? Knowing something that what you're talking about is different, or some aspect of what you're talking about is different. Be thorough, right? And that goes into what, looking for the difference, being thorough within the research, making sure that if you're gonna write something about somebody, make sure you are correct. You're stating correct facts about what you've read. There's times I have to reread an article because it was so dense and I didn't know what I was talking about. And I mean, peer reviewers also like let you know, like, hey, did you read that correctly? But it's important to be thorough so you won't have to go back and say, oh, that's what that meant, and have to rewrite something totally. Find themes. Oh, that's like my favorite thing. When you're doing, like, especially if you're doing literature review, because most research that you do, you have to have some type of literature review leading up to the big question, to your research. Why, why you're doing a method, why you're embarking on this method, why you are creating this study. Finding themes really helps. So sometimes when we look at literature, we look at these pieces as very separate. Sometimes when we look at topics that we're looking at, they seem very separate, especially if you're looking at the research that's past. So for me, I was looking at intergenerational trauma and trauma-focused acts, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's go code that would be together. That makes sense. There's gonna be articles out there for that. No, it wasn't. Trauma-focused acts. I'm waiting for Dr. Farrell to let me know, but I don't know if it's still evidence-based therapy. But there wasn't a lot of articles that talked about it. So I was one of the first people to kind of talk about that therapy, as well as talking about intergenerational trauma within the context of Black families. And so I had to go back and look at what is trauma within Black Americans, what is intergenerational trauma, period, what is trauma, period. So it's like you really have to get thorough, you really have to find the themes that come out, and that's how it can get very complicated, but that's good. That's good. That means you are extrapolating everything from the literature and creating something beautiful. I mean, people will read it and like, okay, I can see how you got it. Versus you just found 2 or 3 articles that kind of talk about your topic, but it's not exactly what you were trying to talk about. So this one is like, if you're doing a research study, find your study fit. So looking at like scales and surveys, stuff like that. We kind of talked about this a little bit about like how sometimes there might be scales out there that's not like a little bit not going to be pertaining to your study, and sometimes you might have to recreate your own scale. But also you have to look at those scales. You still have to examine those scales and talk about how they might not fit for your population, but at the same time, there's aspects of that scale that I'm taking from. So only because the scale might not fit your population doesn't mean it shouldn't be talked about. Does that make sense?
Oh, like how you guys need a new scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
But developing a new scale is its whole own study, so that's why we're not doing that. Like, oh yeah, scale development is a whole field of research because you have to do validity studies, and there's a whole thing behind it. Psychometrics is a whole class in the doc program. And so instead, we're not doing that particular thing right now. But when we were looking at relationship satisfaction, there was something that was close enough that we could tweak it, because it was the relationship satisfaction scale for gay and lesbian identified individuals. And so instead of, what we did is we replaced the word sexual orientation in the thing with relationship orientation, because we were looking at non-monogamous people, not necessarily LGBTQ people. So by switching that one word up, the concept aligned closely enough that we were able to use this scale with a minor modification.
And so when you have to do that, you still have to talk about that previous scale before you made that edit, before you made that change. To talk about the history of that scale, to make sense of why you're implementing the least. Yes.
I think another example that we can share as how to find your study fit from the research teams that I've been working on. So I've been on 2 different research teams here at MSP looking at the use of neuropsychological tests for ADHD. And one of the things that we found is that kind of the gold standard test, which is the Conners that everybody uses for continuous performance tests to try to diagnose ADHD, was not being used in the literature. And we were like, why is this? So our study fit actually was, it seems like we need to conduct first a meta-analysis or a systematic review to figure out why is this? Why aren't people using this new version of the Conners, which has been out for now 10 years? Why are they still using the previous version? So we came at this from a totally different angle, thinking, oh, we want to find out about the Conners 3, but then we need to do really this initial study first to figure out, well, what's even out there in the literature. And we found that we couldn't do a meta-analysis. The studies weren't similar enough. So we moved it to be in a systematic review, which looked at themes. And so what we found was that people weren't using it specifically for diagnosing ADHD. They were using it as one small kind of test and a number of other tests because it wasn't as specific as the previous version. But there wasn't that knowledge of the literature yet. So again, when we talk about study fit, it's really understanding what's in the literature already and how can your study fit that. Yep. Again, something you start out thinking one way and it's like, oh, wait, this isn't what I thought, and having to reframe like, okay, what do we need to do instead to find out why?
So in regards to research as a whole, you have to have a very flexible mindset. Things will change. You can have a question. That question can still be relevant, but at the same time, it might change over time. Especially if the way you do the research can also change over time, depending on what's out there. Just kind of like what Stephanie was saying. Before I move on, do we have any questions on Zoom? Okay, just making sure. All right, creating a, make sure it's good. Creating a journal shortlist. I think, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. I'll just switch. I was like, I couldn't turn on my computer, but that looks awkward. Okay. Again, this is kind of much. Typically what happens is you'll design a research study, you'll conduct it, and then you figure out, where do I publish it? But one of the things that I do want to raise, and this ties into our next session, which is about looking at the different ways that you can publish, because again, there are many ways beyond just publishing a traditional research article that you can get your name out there. And we're going to go over that more so next week, but one of the things you can think about early in the process is, getting back to that, who's my audience, is where do I eventually want this to go? So when you're thinking about kind of early on, what do you want your journal shortlist to be? It's creating basically a smaller set of journals that you might be wanting to submit to once you get down to that piece of it. So some of the things that go into that you're thinking about when you're selecting that, making that list is, again, who's my audience? Who do I want it to go to? What are the different requirements? So one of the things that's very typical is a lot of journals aren't accepting literature reviews. They're accepting other types of research articles or non-empirical as well, meaning non-research articles, but they may not necessarily call it a literature review. So kind of getting a feel for the literature up front and what journals are publishing what types of articles gives you a better feel for where you might be able to publish once you get to that point. You can also look at one of the things that I wanted to point out, and I'll put this in the chat as well once I bring up the link. Again, this is more of a FYI just to kind of get you started. I'm going to put this link in the chat for Bethany and for Danielle. So this guide gives you some tips and tools for creating that journal shortlist. So Jane, the journal name, author, estimator, literally you put in an abstract or a snippet of your writing and you just add it to Jane and it creates a list of potential journals that are good matches. So again, it's algorithm based, it's going on keywords that are in your actual work, but it is a starting place and it's something that I recommend using, again, kind of early in the process to figure out where you might want to go. As you're collecting the literature, looking at the journals that keep popping up over and over. If you're citing it, that means it's probably a good likelihood your article is going to be a good match for that journal as well. But there are a lot of things to kind of keep an eye on. So this guide provides you some of those recommendations of tools to look at, being aware of kind of what are called predatory journals that aren't legit journals. They're literally like sham journals that have popped up that are trying to, get money and then get published. But those are things you don't need to worry about right now. But this is a good starting place for you.
Does it cost to publish?
So there are two different models. There's what's called open access, which is you do typically pay to publish because you're making your research available to the world. With traditional publishing, you are not paying a publisher, but they're taking everything from you. So they're taking your work, they're saying, we own this now, and we're not gonna let anybody else see it unless somebody else pays for it, whether that be you as an individual, or it be us as a library, or it be a university or a private practice, whatever it be, they pay for you to be able to access that work. So again, open access kind of emerged as a counter to traditional publishing, where publishers were taking all of this work and claiming it as, we're gonna own it and use what we want. But this kind of emerged as a darker side of publishing so you just have to be aware of which journals are good open access journals and which aren't. And there are definitely great open access journals, really big ones out there too.
And especially if your audience, like when you talk about who your audience is going to be, if your audience is going to be clinicians, you want to try and get into an open access journal, because otherwise clinicians, it's behind a paywall, and for clinicians to get a hold of it is harder.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. And there are potential funding opportunities available to pay for those. Sometimes it's everybody pools together their money to pay for open access, but again, those are things we can talk about once you're further down along in that process. I wanted to bring up just a list of journals that MSP students and faculty have published in as examples. So you can see really the kind of the focus areas and the research interests run the gamut in terms of different subspecialties of psychology, different population groups that are being studied, looking at very specific things like substance abuse. So it really, this gives you kind of a better sense of where people publishing. I also provided a link to our MSP research and scholarship reports. You're getting actually a sneak peek because this hasn't been sent out yet, even though it's available, but they're waiting till the end of the week. So the most recent one is now up and available on the website for last academic year. So if you scroll down on this webpage, this is the most recent report. So these are things where students, faculty, and staff have presented, published, or just been kind of out in the community giving presentations or talks. So this also, again, when you're just trying to get a feel for what are people doing here? Where are they presenting? How are they publishing? What are the types of things they're publishing? This gives you that feel again for, oh, I noticed so-and-so published about this. And where can they go? Oh, look, there's.
Why is Courtney on like?
Courtney has so many.
Oh my goodness.
There's so many.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Still only 5 days.
Very good.
But
I also have her contact. You guys want to contact her and understand how she does what she does.
But I one of the things we can use Courtney as an example is the different types of things that she's published. Society for Humanistic Psychology newsletter. So that was a short thing written for a practice-based community. This is a chapter. This is actually a commentary on a previous work. So this is Maslow's View on Tech and Culture, Millennials' Response. So it's looking at an older work from a newer perspective. And that's usually a commentary or an editorial or something like that. These are the types of things we're going to talk about next time, of what this looks like. But now you're getting kind of a feel for, oh, it's not always just hypothesis-driven research. There are different ways to publish and be out there.
This is so cool.
It is so cool, isn't it? So again, take a look at that. Again, the link is already up on the website. They're going to send out a community-wide email later in the week. But again, you get a sneak peek today because you're part of the session. And then the last thing I want to mention before I open it up for a couple questions and then hand it back to Dennis is there are also journals out there that are for students. So these are meant as a starting place. If you've never published before, if you're just getting, I really want to feel for what the publishing process is, but I don't want the pressure, I want something a little lower stakes, these might be a good starting place as well. And it can be a much smaller scale because that's what they're meant for. They're meant for these types of things. I always encourage students to shoot for the moon first. And if it doesn't work out, then this could be an option. But I do want to provide them as examples for these are actually meant for students to publish in. Sometimes they're even run by students. So the editorial board, the peer reviewers, there'll be faculty kind of consultants and advisor roles, but these are driven sometimes completely by students. So it's actually sometimes an option. They might be looking for editorial board members who are students to serve on this. So there are all sorts of ways to get involved in the profession as a student. So that's all I have for the, kind of the getting started feel for what are people publishing about, what are the things to start looking for early on when you're just beginning to look at the literature and finding that gap or that niche. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, then Dennis, I'm gonna hand it back to you.
All right, tips and tricks to maximize your manuscripts. Oh, just don't overstate your findings. Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
I made this mistake on my very first manuscript, and the editor worked with me, and we brought it down to what it was supposed to be.
See, that's so sweet and nice. Not a lot of people do that.
No,
That's just we'll just reject it and be like, all right,
Yep.
no, that's not project's not for us.
So that was a very rare case. It probably would have usually just been.
So to not do this, right, make sure your depiction is accurate, is going back to what I said earlier about being thorough. Being thorough within literature and being thorough with how you're going throughout doing the research. So if I'm putting this towards if you're doing a study, being thorough in how you're doing the study, right? Making sure that you have someone in your circle that knows your method. I know for me personally, I have to have 5 or 10 people that knows my method of what I'm doing, so I know I'm doing the right thing. So I won't be over here I think I did that wrong. It's yeah, you did. It's easy. So yeah, it's better if you make sure you are being thorough within how you're doing things, also looking at literature that has people that have already done it, right? For me, looking at old studies and how they did it makes it a lot easier than embarking on that. Because sometimes you can get a little anxious and be like, oh, that's too much, I can't do that. But when you watch someone actually do it and read it, and like, okay, it's at least it alleviates some of that anxiety about embarking on that journey. Solicit others' advice, which I just kind of talk about too. Like solicit others' advice. Oh my God, how many people I asked before I even submitted to the journal?
5, 6.
I think 5. Yeah, it was like 5. It was 2 students, 3 professors. And it was actually, no, yeah, well, yeah, 3 professors because Stephanie is professor now. Stephanie was one of them. I also had 2 other professors in the master's who reviewed my manuscript, as well as 2 students that were already in the doc program because I was writing this manuscript while I was in the master's. And when I say they did not let back, they went full throttle, and I accepted it. It was good. It prepared me because it don't stop after. It's really nice because people can read your project and then and they want it to go really well. That's why they go so hard, and I had to really accept that. Because sometimes I was like, why you go so hard on my project? And I was like, because I want to see it get accepted, right? And so to see other people give that inspiration and let you know, like, all right, so just change this, add this, reword this, and it really helps you with the common mistakes that you do. For me, when I write like I'm talking, and that was the biggest issue. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so we have to be aware and listen to other people's advice when they are looking at our projects and noticing things and, comparing those things with other people. So like I said about the whole talking while writing, that was 3 people that said that. And I was like, all right, so that is definitely an issue. Not saying I would not, but it shows data that like, all right, this is something I need to work on, and it's something I can move forward with.
Also remember, it is harder to give more feedback than to give less. So if somebody's going hard on your manuscript, it is because they care. If somebody's just like, oh no, this is fine. I know it's not 100% fine. What do you mean it's fine? Right?
Yeah.
So
It's fine, be nervous.
right.
Yeah.
I always try to find feedback to give to students on even like class papers, because that feedback's important for growth. If there's nothing to get better, if there's no room for growth, then how am I helping them grow? So
I was just talking to a fellow student, and he was thinking of working with someone. And I was like, yeah, she's gonna rip up your paper. That's not a bad thing though. That means that means she's very, very, very much want your project to go, right? And I know this person personally, so I know how she edits, and I know how she gives feedback after a presentation. She goes fully in because she knows, she sees the potential in it. And that's where I think about it when I get feedback back from someone. They see the potential in what I can do. So, if someone just gives you like 5 edits out of like a 10-page, no, they did not read that. They skimmed it, and they didn't really want to give you the effort and the respect that you deserve. So think of it that way. So that leads us to the next thing, right? Take peer reviewers' comments seriously. So peer reviewers are not your mentors, not the people that you go off and ask to look at your paper. You have to do this when you're in the process of publication. Most times, and I think I'm accurate, Stephanie will correct me, but most times when people submit to a journal, they will have edits. They will get accepted, but have revisions. Those revisions will be so long. And there's a form that you'll have to fill out to show that you have touched on every single edit. Yes, that sounds crazy, but it is very beneficial because then again, you're seeing the things, you're seeing what issues or common mistakes that you make. And I had to do that. I had a 3-page thing. I had to, response letter to my first round of edits from 2 peer reviewers. So the process is they have the editor and there's 2 peer reviewers. Usually the editor does also make edits too, in my case, we didn't care until the end. There were 2 reviewers. They usually, and I think just from my personal experience, I don't know if that's always either. They always find someone that is really, really for your project and someone that can be the opposition towards that project.
That is typically how that works.
Yes, to balance it out. Because there were times where I read something from peer reviewer 1 and I was like, okay, he likes it. He's getting it. Peer reviewer 2 was like, he's not an act person. That's not, he's gotta be CBT, he's gotta be something else. Like he does not like what I'm talking about.
Knowing where you applied is probably BCBA or something.
Probably. But it was still a good, because I also want to make sure that my paper was neutral. There were times where they commented saying, okay, but it seems like you're making a comment here. You're not really being a flexible mindset. And I was talking about flexibility, which was such a funny pun for them to give to me. But and so you have to take it with a grain of salt because they are trying to help. At the end of the day, they wanted to work on this project and they wanted to make this project better. And so writing those things out, being okay to the fact that, okay, I'm about to get edits and it's probably gonna be intensive. I mean, I think I took a whole semester editing. Yeah, because you're answering back to full people with their own thoughts. And sometimes those thoughts are conflicting. Like one person says, take this section out, another person says, this section is good, just add this and this. So sometimes you have to make a decision. How you're going to argue that, okay, I'm going to keep this, and this is the reason why I'm going to keep this, or, okay, I took that out, this is the reason why. I had to deal with that. It was very funny because there was a section I talked about, I think it was like other therapies, and one peer reviewer was like, take the section out, really don't need it. Other one was all like, keep it, just add more to this. And so I decided, because it became irrelevant to what I was talking about, because I started finding my own voice of what I was trying to argue. And I was like, okay, this is irrelevant. So making an argument and then realizing after I made the argument, they agreed. I was like, oh. So sometimes it is very inspirational doing this process because it makes you be more reflective. Like, why did this project do? Because at that point, you might forget. You write this paper, you did this whole paper, and you went through like 5 edits from people that you've been with, mentors, advisors, friends, and at this point, you're done. You're tired. You're like, all right, I submitted it to your journal. I'm done with it. I don't need to care about it no more. Now I'm getting revisions back. Okay, why am I doing this project again? That process helps you remember why, because you're rereading it again.
It's also why we pick things that we're passionate about.
Yes. Yeah. Even the passionate ones, though, you get a little bit compassion fatigue.
Oh, compassion fatigue. For sure, you're going to get like tired. And that's another reason we have this group, is to help keep everybody on track. And if somebody is like, oh, I've got no motivation, I have all these edits, I don't want to do them, and we'll be like, yeah, we get it, and do it anyway.
We're gonna help you through. Let's just talk through one by one.
Why did you want to start this project in the first place? Why is this important? Publication is going to help you with XYZ goal, this thing and that thing and the other thing and all of the stuff. So, just give me an idea.
Love it.
What? Love it. Totally get ideas sometimes. I think maybe we could all make little vision boards.
That would be nice. That would be really nice.
We could make little vision boards of our, like, with our goal of what we want to publish or what we want to accomplish, and then our why, and that way we can know. I made people do this in, what did I make them do this in? I don't remember. It was last semester, I think.
It could have been. It was revision, right?
No, I made them make posters. It's all right. I'll remember later and then be like, oh yeah, duh. But just basically like, why are we doing this? What is the point? We need to stay motivated when it gets hard.
It's giving acts, values, and
yeah, I know. Well, because where does motivation come from? Motivation doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from our values and from what is intrinsically reinforcing and rewarding to us. For me, one of those values is justice, social justice, and things being as fair as possible. I realize things cannot always be fair, but like as fair as possible. And so when I see an injustice, that really motivates me to try to change that thing. So that's why my dissertation was on, like years ago, was on transgender, the sensitive treatment of transgender individuals. I did a course development where I did a scoping literature review on the state of the literature on transgender healthcare at that point in time, 2008, things were a lot different. And formed a way to present that to clinicians, because it was a 14-hour course on the sensitive treatment of transgender individuals. Because I watched one video that showed, it was a documentary on how people were dying, literally dying, because no one would treat them because they were trans. Like, there's a trans man who was dying of ovarian cancer because no one would treat him. Because not only was it like the 90s and in the South, and so he was on hormones and he's trying to walk up into the oncology office with like full beard, and these people were like, you can't be here.
That's so sad.
And so he died of ovarian cancer.
Oh, he never got treated.
No, he never was able to receive treatment and he died. And so there's a whole documentary called Southern Comfort. It's about what happened to him. And in my multi-cult class in grad school back in the day, so then, you know, fast forward to 2003, we watched the documentary and I was like, that is the most bullshit thing I've ever seen in my whole ass life. And so then I did a little more research and I found out that it is not only the healthcare field, but it's also the mental health field, where people were not being treated appropriately and they were basically being given conversion therapies and all this other stuff. People were dying, they were self-mutilating, they were committing suicide because mental health couldn't get their stuff together. And so for me, that was very motivating to finish that project. And throughout doing my dissertation, I went to the very limited availability of like transgender conferences at the time. There was one very secretive little conference at like the Sheridan just outside of Chicago, where like people would go to try to connect with other trans people. And there was a lot of you know, secrecy and a lot of, well, I'm just a cross-dresser. I look back now and go, oh, babies, no, you are not, but you could not be your whole self, and that's really sad. And so they like live these double lives, and it was just a lot. And so there's still stigma. We've come a long, long way in the last 20 years, but yeah, seeing that injustice made me be like, I have to do something about it. And so if you find your why, your value, your thing that keeps you going, then you can connect back to that when it gets hard, because it'll get hard. All things that are worth doing are hard. We all know that. So yeah, that's why I thought like the vision was
I like that idea.
Yeah, so this, what you just saw, right, just real quick, that's someone that found their voice. Okay, and this is what I'm gonna see in all of you when you're doing your projects. You're gonna find that voice that's inspiring you to keep this project going. It could be something very small, it could be something very big, but that's gonna be the person that these people that are at this journal is gonna want to see when you're writing this paper or writing this project or doing this project that you're trying to create. Okay, so last thing, don't forget to breathe. I know I just have to talk about all these things. Me and Stephanie talking about all these things. Overwhelming, it's a lot. Don't forget to breathe, right?
Does anyone have class at 1:30?
Oh, it is a, yeah.
So we should let them go.
Yes, okay. Quickly, make sure you don't breathe. Make sure you find time for yourself.
Still the next 3 minutes.
Really fast.
Let's talk about breathing.
Self-care is a thing. We all know this. We're all in the mental health field. And also take snacks with you on your way to class.
Take snack.
Thank you.
Enjoy this in 2 weeks for our second.
Yes, 2 weeks.
Thank you.
The next time we'll talk about the different types of publishing work. Awesome. That's great. And thank you for all on Zoom.
Thank you.